There we have it, guys. The All Black Sharks game just finished. Sharks putting up a valiant fight in the early part of the match, but ultimately the All Blacks ended up putting the sword through them, as everyone expected. The ABs did what they wanted to do, I think. For me personally, they showed Razzie a different game plan. They showed Razzie something that the All Blacks haven't done this year, which was, I mean, the conditions sort of allowed for them to do it more than, it was very, very wet. So kicking became more key. But they showed Razzie a totally different way that they've, which they haven't played this year. They put up a lot of high balls. In the first half, they did. They, made plenty of crossfield kicks. They chipped in behind, which they scored off of. A few grubbers, really nice 50-22 from Ruben Love. So just like a real good tactical kicking game. Even that penalty in the first half there, they had it just over the halfway line, and Geordie Barrett put up a big bomb, which they regained. So they've given Razzie something else to think about, and I think that was the key. All these games are for that. It's to give the guys, a run, to get them, match fit, and to give them, to make sure that they're not rusty and they're not, they're linking up well. But it's also to give Razzie a look at something, to make him think, to make him think the All Blacks can play this way or that way. They're not just going to try and hold the ball and run it from everywhere. So I think it was a success. They played well in good parts, and there were some really good performances here. So let's take a look at those. Right, so let's have a look at the player stocks for the game tonight. I keep doing this wrong, don't I? There they are. So Preston, I think he's man of the match, or very close. So he gets my top, player stocks there. I thought Ruben Love, I was a little bit iffy on him at the start of the second half. I thought the first half things got a little bit messy there at the end of the first, and I did not necessarily like the not finding touch from that penalty. That was a little bit careless. It was a little bit like, he took the foot off the gas, knowing that he was not in, a big test match. It was, the Sharks. He got a little bit too confident, and he butchered it. But after that, he was sensational. And his goal kicking, holy moly, man, we have a goal kicker. We have a goal kicker. We haven't had a goal kicker since Dan Carter. He just banging them over. In fact, if I was Ruben Love, I'd be a little bit filthy at Preston, because Ruben was just banging one after the other from the touchline, and then Preston scores under the post. He knocks that over. Next one out in the touchline, and he hooks it. So I'll be a little bit filthy there with Preston if I was Ruben Love. Fihi Anganafo, as mentioned earlier, I thought he was excellent. Definitely given Rennie something else to look at and think about when it comes to his outside backs. Luke Jacobson as captain was outstanding as well. Some big tackles. Also, again, just really deceptive with ball in hand. And to be honest, everyone else gets a bit of a tick, in my opinion. I thought everyone was really, really good. There was no real, bad performances. It was interesting to see how Tossie was going to go tonight. I didn't think the backup front row really improved their chances. They got pinged a few times at the end. Didn't look great. Norris, Slater, and Tossie. That's a pretty inexperienced front row, and yeah, tough. But it was interesting that they threw Tossie back in there after the game against the Stormers. But that's it. Those are the player stocks anyway. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. If there are anyone else that you felt had a particularly good game to make note of, let me know. All right, let's start off with Kyle Preston. I think he was probably, if he wasn't man of the match, he was very, very close. Man, what a performance. I thought he was awesome. And I think he's leapfrogged Ratimer to be that backup number 9 to Cam Roigard. I really do. I thought he was excellent. Just super calm, composed, nothing got to him. His passing's excellent. Like he probably needs to lower it a little bit. He was sending a few straight at Ruben Love's head, but it is real quick. I think he's got a quicker pass than Roigard even. He gets the ruck really quickly as well. And, he's not necessarily this guy that just mindlessly passes it. He has a look. He picks it up sometimes, and every now and again he gets into trouble, but he manages to get his way out of it. And again, it's similar to Roy Garden that it keeps the defenders guessing. And this is what we want. We want South Africa to not just expect the ball to go out into the we want them to be honest. They're going to have to be careful around the edges and protect that, because we have two halfbacks who can and will pick up the ball and go. So I really like that from Preston. Just can't say enough good things. Even in that first half, really early on in the 22, and they got a penalty and he tapped it and went. We've seen Ratima do that too, but just the way he did it in that area of the field, and then kicked ahead, Whittingham chased it, and it would have been an All Blacks line out had Whittingham got his tackle down, but still just really, really, really good. The next point here I've got is the ABs just genuinely have scary ball carriers now, right? Like Semesi looked incredible in the second half. Okay, he didn't, a couple of runs there where he just, even if he's not, breaking tackles everywhere, he's two guys basically have to get it. If they see Semesi lining up, it does draw more defenders in. So he's gonna make an impact, and he is gonna hurt people, and this is what we want. Tavanawa looked really good as well when he came on. Amua just so damaging as well. Amua threw a few pizzas in, didn't he? He had a couple of lineouts that didn't go necessarily to the man, and he got pinged once or twice. I thought that was just Carly being really pedantic, but Amua just deadly from close range. I'm pretty sure he probably scored that. It was just there were no real good looks at it, but yeah, just them two, Tavatavanawa, and then just like Luke Jacobson as well, Satiti, hard to stop. They all made good meters, and they just genuinely have really good ball carriers, even in the back line. Tupaia, really hard to tackle. Caleb Clark, so there's plenty. And I'm going to get into Fehi after this, but Fehi, his carrying was just a lot. I don't know. He's such a good try scorer, but he also carries really well, and he's a bit like Morby in the way that he's really. I think people underestimate him, and he's able to get through the tackle. So here's another one that's really good. So I like what the ABs have with their ball carriers right now. Right, I already mentioned the kicking game. Right, we saw a different array of kicking, which was awesome. We didn't kick too much in the second half. I think the All Blacks just sort of got into the game. They realised they were able to spread the ball, and they just started running it a little bit more. Fehi, sublime. I thought he was excellent. He had one or two in the first half. He dropped that high ball, which was pretty tough, to be honest, and he got that high shot on their winger, I think it was. But other than that, just no. He's got a nose for the try line. Really hard to stop. Really good link up play. Just exactly what you want to see from a guy out there. None of this like rustiness. He hasn't played in a long time, right? None of this rustiness, he was catching everything almost. His passing was good, link up play, offloads, that draw and pass back inside to DMAC to score that second try. Another just tick in the column of Fehi. And, I don't know if he gets in there over Morby. I don't even know if he gets on the bench over Clark, just purely on Clark being such a good ball carrier, but he's put his hand up, Now, the other thing I want to get into, which leads into from this, right, is DMAC. DMAC went off with an injury. He played on for a bit, but he ended up coming off. It was his ankle. So I think that's a good thing. It wasn't his knee, which is always one of those trickier ones, right? It was his ankle. But if he's not available for the All Blacks for one or two tests or whatever it is, you have a bit of an issue there, because so far you're getting away without playing an extra 10 or out carrying an extra 10, right? Because you've got DMAC at fullback, he can switch with Love. Without DMAC there, you've got to play maybe a Will Jordan or even a Morby, but you've still got to take an extra 10 on the bench, right, to cover. So I mean, I think it's without question that DMAC might be out for 1 or 2 games. And if that is the case, Moing has probably already got his ticket. They've probably already bought him his ticket over. And then you've got a real possibility of seeing Moing on this tour. But that changes the dynamic, right? Because then, the All Blacks were carrying 2 outside backs. You can't really do that. If you don't have DMAC, you've got to carry an extra 10. You've now got an extra 9, 10 on your bench. You can only take 1 outside back. And that sort of scuppers things for guys like Fehi and Clark, because you're going to want a player there that can play multiple positions, right? So, and they are technically mainly wingers. So it changes the dynamic of the team quite a lot if DMAC is ruled out for some time. Hopefully he's not, because I would love to see more of he and Clark and Morby. So to wrap things up, we'll just go over a couple of notes about I guess more game notes as opposed to player notes. I thought the scrum and Maul were better. I thought the scrum had a few issues there in the second half, as I said. But it was a big improvement on last week. Obviously, different cattle. It was a totally different forward pack, wasn't it? So it made sense that they were going to have a better performance this week. I thought the Maul defence also was much better. They were able to get in the middle of it and stifle a few of those Mauls without getting pinged for it, which was good. The line out wasn't that great. I mentioned before, Amua threw a few pizzas. But they just didn't look as dangerous on the opposition throw either. And I think Fabian Holland just makes this line out that much better. So I'm not too worried about the line out because I know Holland will come back in and fix that. But the scrum still needs to improve, right? It's improved from 1 week to the next. Now we need to see it keep improving until we hit the blocks, or otherwise they're going to have a field day. But yeah, apart from that, I don't see too many else really. I like the way the All Blacks were diffusing the high balls, the running backwards. It really worked for them. They weren't 100%, but no team really is. Things got a little bit messy there at times, but I just put that down to the wet weather and, All Blacks just chancing their arm in the wet. Things got a bit scrappy, but, all in all, I'm really happy with that game. I would love to say there were no injuries, but I think the DMAC one could be quite notable going forward. But yeah, I think the All Blacks got a lot out of that, and they'll be really happy moving forward into the Bulls game. That's it, guys. That's my quick recap on what I saw, the key points and players and so on and so forth. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of the game, please. Let me know who you thought was performed really well and who you what your thoughts are on the match and going forward for the All Blacks. As always, please like and subscribe if you like what you're watching and you want to be notified when I drop a new video. There'll be another one coming this week. I have a few things lined up that I want to talk about, so be watching out for that one. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a good rest of the week, and I'll catch you soon.